Welcome, everybody. My name is Michael Roviello, and I'm here with Steven Vicera, and we are going to have a wonderful conversation about all things movement, Pilates. But before we get into that, you are listening to the Optimyze Own Your Health podcast, and I also want to give a short bio so anyone listening to this interview can learn a little bit more about Steve's background and go from there. So welcome, Steve. Thanks for having you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your bio first, and then give people an opportunity to know who you are. And then, of course, I have many questions for you, and of course, I'd like to share my experience from training with you over the last 6 months as well. So Steve, for over the last 20 years, has been helping people reach their goals for better function, greater fitness, and overall sense of well-being. His philosophy is concentrating on core strength and stabilization. This integrated training approach complements the body, making it more functional and improving the appearance, the Pilates body, right? Steve's Pilates story begins after externally reaping the fruits of intense bodybuilding and powerlifting. He was a competitor in bodybuilding in the late 80s from the Philippines. However, internally, his body was straining to keep up with him. One of his spinal vertebrae finally gave out and acquired a condition called Spondylolisthesis. I don't think I said that right.
Spondylolisthesis.
There you go.
It's a mouthful.
Yes, it is. It was an injury that made him realize that he was going down the wrong path. This was his moment of clarity. He began to research other methods of training that would not be detrimental to his overall health. He did his research and he discovered Pilates and began doing rehab on his back. It was the perfect choice for him. He realized that Pilates was filling the gap of years of strength training and bodybuilding that had left the main gap, which was core strength and spinal stabilization. He learned that Pilates integrates the entire body as one. He went through 500 hours of the STOTT, S-T-O-T-T, Pilates instructor program, including other various training certificates. And he became an entrepreneur and founded Summit Fitness in 2007. His mission now is really helping people who are suffering from back pain. He uses the Pilates methodology as alternative from basically pain medication and surgery. And presently, that was just some feedback from some of your clients that you had sent me, which we can discuss separately, and me being a client as well. I'm actually a perfect candidate for you because I had a anterior cervical spinal surgery back in 2007 where they fused 4, 5, and 6 of my neck vertebrae. You can see the scar still here. They go through your neck. They move your esophagus, and they remove discs and put a metal titanium plate in. And at the end of that surgery, you think, okay, I'm fixed. Everything is done. I can go about my life. Not realizing that there's all kinds of mobility issues that come with it. And for many years, I just went back to old habits, which was strength training, bodybuilding, heavy lifting, not stretching, all of the things that probably created problems in the first hand until I found you. And that was because one of the commitments I made over the last year was I'm not going to focus so much on strength training. I'm going to focus more on functional training, functional fitness, mobility, core strength. And I met you at the Wim Hof Method course and started to learn about what you teach and what you do. And then I've been working with you now for the last 6 months, and I've learned so much. So I'd love to get into all of that at some point in our conversation. But ultimately, I want to open up to learn a little bit more about your story. So you're originally from the Philippines and you got into bodybuilding. And what got you into bodybuilding in the Philippines? I didn't even know bodybuilding was big in the Philippines, but maybe they were kind of watching American trends and Arnold and all the things that he was doing here in the 70s. So tell me a little about that.
I think in the 80s, you're scrawny, tiny person. Filipinos, we're not very tall, but so we kind of compensate somewhere else, like building your body. So when I was in high school, I acquired this disease. It's typhoid fever and hepatitis A, and that I had to stop for school for a year. So I had to kind of rehabilitate my body after that. I used to be an avid runner, so I used to run a lot. I'll run in the morning before school, and I'll run after. I'll be on track or out running in the Bay Area in the Philippines. But because of this disease, it kind of brought me behind school-wise and physically. So that kind of the turning point for me to kind of build my health back. So one of my friend invited me to go to a YMCA back then. That's the only place that they have those gyms.
They have YMCA in Philippines.
Yeah, they have YMCA in the Philippines.
Very cool.
So it's operated by the Chinese community, and so it's very stacked. They have those universal gyms, with weight stacks and free weights. So, and I used to admire this friend of mine. He sit in front of me. His tricep is popping out. Man, I want to have that arm, right? And so went to the gym, trained for 2 years, and I started. I was committed and developing. Back then when you're at that age, you could eat anything and still be muscular.
You still be lean. You can eat fast food. You can eat as much as you want. You could get poor sleep. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I know. Your testosterone is high. So after 2 years, one of the instructors encouraged me to join a competition, and okay, why not? For fun. And so I joined, and I placed, I think second, like first runner up. So then, oh man, this is fun. I think one of my strength back then was, I'm more proportioned than most, more balanced. It's not too big in most muscles. So I think the judges like that. So ever since, and then I started winning competitions ever since, and 20 competitions later.
20 competitions you did in bodybuilding, all in the Philippines.
All in the Philippines, So then got to have some prize money. Then I got some sponsors. A power tool company. I don't know if you're familiar with a power tool, Japan made. It's called Makita.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So the distributor of Makita in the Philippines sponsored me to be their athlete. So, and we traveled to Hong Kong, China, and so it was fun. It was fun when you're young and you have no responsibilities and you got accolades, and it lasted.
Sounds like a great time. You're able to work out, eat,
they
get
give you money,
sponsored,
you get to travel. Yeah,
get to travel. Exactly. That sounds like a really nice career.
Yeah, so it was fun for a while when you're young. So it's like a different lifetime when I'm talking about it. Oh my gosh, that's way, way back. 86 to 97. My last competition was a national, like a Mr. Philippines. So that was the last time I competed. But, I took up maybe 5 years off. Then I competed, and it's not the same anymore. I felt the culture is not for me anymore, because at that time I was married. 2 years married, and my priorities have changed. And but it was fun. It was fun for a while.
Will probably help you also to create a lot of discipline. That's one thing I noticed about bodybuilding, is that there is a lot of discipline involved, because you obviously have to watch what you eat, and leading up to a competition, I'm sure there's a lot of restrictions, whether you're carb loading or maybe not eating a lot of carbs, and the protein requirements and all of the information that's out there. And of course, that information is always changing. But regardless, you have to stick very regimented to a plan, strict exercise, weight train, certain amounts of cardio. So it probably helped to also create a lot of good discipline in your early years as well.
Yeah, I think that's the positive things that I pick up the discipline aspect and just the mental focus and learning how to say no to a lot of stuff, you know, and just the commitment of working out, whether, it's a holiday or it's, high flood waters. In the Philippines, half of the year it rains. So the water just goes up to your chest, and still committed to go to the gym and work out, or, and food is expensive. So you make do with what you had, a lot of chicken, and avoid rice. Filipinos, we eat rice 3 times a day.
Yeah,
breakfast,
how do you
lunch,
avoid
and dinner.
rice as a Filipino? That's like probably a sin.
I know, and people hate you because in the Philippines it's disrespectful to say no when you're invited to eat, and I had to say no, and yeah, I won't get invited to a lot of parties, and
No, you were boring, right?
I know,
You
yeah,
could only eat chicken, probably not drinking, no party.
I have my sweet potatoes, my boiled or my grilled chicken, or my leathery beef, whatever I prepared.
Was there a
But it
lot of
was fun.
supplements as well in the Philippines? Or is that industry big?
it's
like the protein powders and all the pills that obviously were so popular here
a little
in the United
bit, but
States?
it's not I'm lucky. I'm sponsored, but not many people can afford it. So it's a lot of false education about supplements back then, and some people take those steroids as well. So so it's unfortunate, when it gets more popular.
Oh, that's definitely one of the things that became extremely popular in bodybuilding movement. Of course, steroids and people
I feel
getting
like
monsters, like unreal size, just getting 250 pounds and 3% body fat.
I was not very big. I was just I was 155. Then at competition, I'm 132. Just ultra rip, ultra skinny and rip.
Very proportionate.
Yeah. So back then, I feel like a dinosaur, because back then it was aerobics. It was step aerobics. Remember those times?
Yes. Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah. Let's get physical.
Yeah.
So a lot of upbeat, that was the popular thing to do, but bodybuilding was not really. It's more kind of an underground like subculture, like it's not fun. It's dingy.
Became more mainstream in the 90s.
Yeah, it became more mainstream in the 90s. So, but back then it was not really. But it was fun, I got the benefits of it, got into some modeling for a beer commercial, a couple of beer commercials, some print ads. So, you get to meet a lot of girls.
I'm sure. Especially in the Philippines. Yeah. You're like a local star then at that point too.
Yeah. So it was fun.
So tell us about the time that you got injured, and how did that come about? And, that would take us into really how you got into Pilates. And I love the history of Pilates. You mentioned to me, during our training, because the equipment looks very strange, if you're brand new to Pilates or never been to a Pilates studio. There's also a lot of misconceptions about Pilates. I want to cover all that today. But before we get into the misconceptions or the origins and history of Pilates, I'd like to hear about your specific injury and how that changed you and how that got you into the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, so back in when I was 25, 3 years later, when I stopped competing, I continue my practice by teaching in a high school, like in the weight room. So I was the physical trainer in the weight room for the students. So, I'm teaching some athletes, to improve their performance and get into other sports or powerlifting. So one time, your ego gets in the way, and I got into the, barbell rowing, like my body weight, 150 pounds, and it just snapped and I blacked out right there. And so I felt that pop doing a barbell bent over rows. And it was painful and I blacked out, and then it got better after maybe 6 months, but it reoccurred when I moved back here to America in 2003. I'm already at 37, so I hurt my back when I was 25 and reoccurred. So I went to a chiropractor for a year and a half, and the X-ray shows my one of my vertebrae is 50-degree grade. Basically one of the discs move forward 50 degrees. So I can't tie my shoelace. It's that was my transition job to kind of support my family moving here to America, since I know fitness. I'm a trainer in the gym at Valley Fitness, Mountainside. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the, life-changing, career-changing injury. So try to spend as much as I can in the chiropractor, hoping that they could fix me. But after a year and a half, he said, I think you just need surgery. And, I just followed my gut feeling. Maybe there's an alternative out there that's that's not surgery or medication. And I research. I'm always following one of my mentors and how she transitioned from the fitness craze of aerobics and to Pilates, and she was like 2 years ahead of me. She's opened a studio in the Philippines. She's very successful. She trained the president of the Philippines, and she's that successful. She's the main person to the source back in the Philippines. So I followed her footsteps. So I got certified here in America and got the training. It was kind of embarrassing when the first time I was on those beds in those Pilates reformers, and all my classmates are women. And back in 2006, that's not many men who are into Pilates. When you think of Pilates, it's only for women or
body sculpting. Right? Yeah, that's kind of been a lot of the marketing and advertisement around Pilates has been has been body sculpting for women.
For women, all the movie stars into Pilates, but I chose the company STOTT Pilates, was based in Canada, because they put more the science, the sports medicine, the physical therapy. It's more therapeutic and more post-rehab and rehab, so which I needed. So, and at that moment, at the same time, while I was opening up my own studio, invested, bought this commercial condominium plus $100,000 worth of equipment without knowing Pilates.
Wow.
So it's really a gamble.
Yeah.
So, but I have
the true life of an entrepreneur.
I know.
Gamble. Learn how to use your parachute on the way down, right?
That's
you jump
right.
out of the plane, and then as you're on your way down, you're learning how to use the parachute.
I know. You're building a parachute on the way down. So, but I researched, and I also saw the trends and where the trend is heading. Like for example, the trend, marathon started, New York Marathon started in early 1970s with how many people? 55 participants and 100 spectator. And now it's like over 30,000 participants and millions of spectators.
Millions.
So there's a trend, right? And so I was looking in the future, how it's going to look like 10 years, 20 years from now. And, and I'm a guy, and that's another demographic, men to reach out to Pilates. That's a whole new demographic that's untouched, So I'm kind of pioneering my position, And I went through the embarrassment of not being able to coordinate myself in those equipments. I have to act stupid and not coordinated, but it finally connected, and it connected. It's like the way I explain it sometimes to my client, it's like driving a stick shift. Remember when you first drive a stick shift? It's step by step. You step on the clutch, you start the start on the ignitions, step on the gas, put in neutral up from neutral to first gear, and slowly release. Right? Sometimes those 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. But the more you do it more often, and your brain started to click to become those 1, 2, 3, 4 steps becomes one. Your brain those neurons just started connecting, and our brain wants to always conserve energy, right? So it's habitual, and it's now you're connected, and that's what I learned is one of the things that I learned with pain is sometimes the pain is not just coming from the trauma of my back, which happened when I was 25. So there's still other factors that's contributing to it. The stress, it's one of the most stressful time of my life. I just moved to a country I've never been. I have to support my family. I'm a ninja. You know what ninja means? No job, no income. So, no insurance. I have a 4-year-old kid. I'm living with my brother-in-law at his house. My brother-in-law. Thankfully, he allowed us to live with them for a while, and starting new at 37 with nothing. And
very humbling experience.
Yeah, and it's so there's a lot of stress at that moment. Then my wife got pregnant, and then I realized, man, to give birth in America, it costs like $10,000 to give birth.
Yes,
you have no money. That was really a humbling situation. So there's a lot of factors involved. So, and the way I trained is. I'm still doing bodybuilding type of training, and back in the 90s back in 2000, it started to be more popular, the more functional type of training, more stabilization, balance, that's why those Bosu balls started getting more popular.
Come out into the scene.
You're
seeing them more at the fitness studios.
Yeah, the
TRX started to become popular. I think that came from a Navy SEAL.
Yes, a Navy SEAL invented it.
Kettlebells, I think, come from Russia. I think.
Yeah, the Russia.
Might be like a Russian exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of old school.
Yeah, so back in the 1800s, and it's it's a lot more function. So I've learned that, and then I learned Pilates, learning how to work the muscles closer to the spine, which is not activated by, and some of them are not even activated by like weights. No, mostly we load it with weights, right?
It's not like a bicep curl, right?
It's not a bicep curl.
Yeah, or a bench press, or even a pull-up, maybe, in a sense. There's these other muscles that maybe don't get activated.
Mm-hmm. So I learned
physical fitness.
That's correct. So I learned how the diaphragm is important, the pelvic floor, the transverse, and so it forms this this kind of compressed like intra-abdominal pressure that stabilize your spine, and I saw how dysfunctional those deep core muscles. I don't even train them. So I learned how to, and one of them is breathing, and breathing activates the diaphragm. Breathing activates your transverse, the pelvic floor. It's a different types of activation. Like it's like the pelvic floor is like a hammock-like muscles under your pelvis. It's like going to the bathroom and there's a long line. You have to hold it in. So that's your pelvic floor, and that needs to work. So and my pelvis is out of alignment. Hip flexors are tight, glutes are not working. So I had to really change my paradigm, how I trained my body, and it's amazing. Now I'm 55. I injured myself 25. And once in a while I'll test my strength. I'm 150 pounds. I'll still deadlift to twice my body weight, and I can do it. And squat. Close to twice my body weight, and it's
still
amazing.
Maintain good strength.
Yeah, and it's amazing how I'm stronger now than when I was 25. And because now I have this framework of muscles that's holding my body up. It's more balanced. And thankfully it worked, and I was able to help a lot of people, and my business has been around since 2006. Remember, I gambled that $700,000 of debt.
Good gamble.
To open the studio, and
what a great gamble that was.
Yeah, I know, and I'm now 6 years away to pay it off, free and clear. So
nice.
that'll be the maybe I'll drop that by then.
Move on to something else.
Moving on to something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
grow. I want to know a little bit more about the history and origins of Pilates. If you've ever walked into a Pilates studio and you look at the equipment, it looks like almost like a torture chamber in a sense, where they have all these pulleys, and it looks kind of old school. And I always was very curious about the origins of that. And then when we met and I started to learn more about Pilates, and I started to learn about where it came from, I thought that was very fascinating. So I want to ask you to explain to our listeners whatever you may know about the history and origins of Pilates. I believe it's German. Pilates was German, but I'll pass it over to you to talk more about that.
Yes. Actually, Joseph Pilates, he came from Germany. It started from his parents, as his dad is a gymnast. His mom is like a naturopath back then. So that's his kind of source of his education of body culture, and he's familiar with the Greek love for body, and he got into boxing, and so he was in the 1914 he was during the he moved to England, and back then there was a war about to happen, World War I, and so they sent back all the military age men back. Sent them back. I'm not sorry. The older men and the younger men, they sent them back home, but the military age Germans who's staying in the UK, they put them in the Isle of Man as a prisoner. So he stayed there for 4 years. So if you Googled Pilates, a lot of this theory, or they said he was interned in the Isle of Man, and so he used bed springs and ropes to help some of the German soldiers who are sick, with influenza back then at that time, and so he was interned there for 4 years. Then he moved to America, and so his background is more, circus performer, boxing. So he moved to America. He brought his knowledge. He moved to New York. I don't know. It's 8th Avenue. You're from New York, right? 8th Avenue or something.
That's Manhattan. The big city. The Big Apple.
So he opened up a studio there, and he helped. And he became successful with the dancers, because the dancers challenge was the challenge with the dancers in New York is to prolong their career, because they always have injuries.
That's true.
Their back pain, knee pain, ankle, neck, because they just got how they wear and tear their body like crazy. So dancers, if you notice, they have a lot of mobility. And one thing great about Pilates, you could stabilize, help them stabilize their joints. So if they're swinging, if their joints their range is from here to here, we gotta narrow that down, to tighten it a little bit, so they don't go always to the outer range and hurt themselves. So those support muscles, which Pilates is perfect for them. Then he helped the boxers, and the boxers' challenge is they're tight. They're so compressed. They need more mobility. Short range. So Pilates helps open up. And it's just a struggling type of physical culture. Nobody knows Pilates, and he has maybe 50 clients at the most, and very, very loyal. So when he died in 1967, they had a problem of, okay, what are we going to do? Because he left his wife, Clara, and so the students were very passionate. They want to continue the work because they're benefiting from what they learned, and so they just want to keep the club going. And so they found someone to run it. And they found one of Joseph Pilates' students, which is, what's her name? One of the students, Romana. Yeah, Romana. Romana is, she's one of the ballerinas back then. And so she infused a lot of dance in the Pilates, with the original Pilates. Joseph Pilates, his exercise is just, like 36 exercise, 34 to 36 exercise of just in order. You have to do it in order.
Very regimented.
Very regimented. It's German, very structured.
Yeah.
But it's a genius. If you look, it makes sense, and it's still the same until now. But Romana, she put the dance and the dance culture in it. That's why there's words like développé or second position and padishah. So it's a lot of dancey type of names, mermaid, or
kind of like a routine as well, like a Pilates class. I've always looked at it as more like now I can see the connection between the dance and the Pilates. And even the word that you used before, you said, keep the club going. And a lot of Pilates places do refer to their studios as clubs, which is interesting. Now, the hospital bed, so the reason why the Pilates equipment looks, in a sense, like hospital beds, and they have the springs and they have the ropes, all comes from the work that he was doing in England with the German soldiers. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. That's the...
to help rehabilitate them?
Rehabilitate them. And those who were strengthened by it survived. And so it's the same. So he patented that machine, and then back then it became, so Romana continued the work. It's still a struggling studio, but mainly for dancers, because she's a dancer, so she mainly taught dancer. That's her passion.
Yeah, that's what she knows, her network.
Yeah, that's her network. So one of the guy, Ron Fletcher, he's also a dancer, and he's more flamboyant. So he moved to Beverly Hills. And that blew up.
And that's where the Pilates body came from.
Yes. That blew
Beverly
up,
Hills.
all the movie stars, Raquel Welch, and all the very popular movie stars started to get trained by Ron, and unfortunately, Ron, he didn't credit Joseph Pilates for it, and because he wants to be more the guy, he wants to be the popular,
the face of the industry.
Which he became, at that moment, and but the good thing is he paid royalties for the for the machines, for the work, so that kind of helped the wife Clara survive, until she passed, and in the 90s. But it's that's where it's exploded, but still, it's still very niche, so that's what's in the 70s. Running was popular back then. It started getting popular. Then 80s was more jazzercise. So people want more upbeat, jumping, sweating. Yeah. If you're not sweating, you're not working out. Pilates, you don't sweat, right?
Yeah, it's more of a stretching, a stretch workout, core workout.
You kind of have to understand what's really happening inside your body and to feel it to understand how it's only, I think I caught the wave at the tip of the wave, in 2006. Now it just exploded with Club Pilates in the 2000s. Now every street corner there's a Pilates studio.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah,
it's a good observation.
So the challenge is finding the right teacher, because since it's so popular, there's more demand for teachers. So it's like a diploma mill too, So, nobody will ask, how many hours of training have you gotten before you've been certified? And most people can't tell the difference because they just want to break a sweat. So, doing a boot camp on the reformer. But it's amazing creativity out there. But at the end of the day, is it intentional to my body? You could break a sweat in any, group class, spinning or Peloton, but if it's not helping
you tend to focus more on small group, right?
Yeah.
I've noticed is a lot of small group exercises.
I think it's more my personality. It's more I'm not a group person. I can make money with groups, but it's draining on my on my energy. So I think I tend to be, my temperament is, I'm more stickler to, it has to be the right way. So it bothers me if people don't do it the right way. So if in a smaller group, I can still, maybe 4 or 5 people, I can still correct them and make sure they're doing the right thing. So I'm kind of,
that's the old-fashioned way as well. I mean, that's just prevalent in a lot of different things today. I mean, anytime you look into old-fashioned, it's like, okay, you paid your dues, you did your time, you did your certification, you put in your hours, you learned, and then you go and teach. These days, people want a weekend certificate, and then they want to put themselves in a position of teaching. I mean, you could probably see that in a lot of different types of organizations, settings, all kinds of different settings. Now, moving into the history and origin, I know you focus very specifically on rehabilitation, is what I've gathered, just from my appointments myself, or the type of clients that typically work with you, the people that I see passing through. So what are the most common things that you see? Collectively, you deal with a lot of different people for many years now. What is happening inside the body, and why are we in so much pain?
Well, there's a lot of factors. And going back to your question, I think most people I see right now is back pain and shoulder pain and neck pain. I think just being in this, I know. I think 80% of people have back pains, in their lifetime, right? And So looking at that, that's a good batting average. Almost 8 out of 10 is my future clients.
Yeah, the big industry, right?
Yeah. So, and, and I've proven how I can help, and I develop a network of people, medical professionals that we refer to each other, from surgeons to physical therapists. So we can refer each other as our clients and and their patients. And, I have to earn my credibility, just that I can help their clients, and
of course,
and talking to them in the same manner as, in a medical term, so they understand, because we're talking about medical terms, so that kind of get the respect. And, actually a lot of my clients are doctors, from Mayo to, different banner or...
Yeah, I noticed that. But a lot of your clientele are doctors and surgeons from the local area in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is very close to the Mayo Clinic, which is one of the top hospitals in the country, well, in the world, actually.
Yeah. So I'm grateful to be able to, bounce off things with them and learn from each other and share ideas. I think that the reason why, I think, going back to your question again, it's just our lifestyle. We kind of live in this imaginary square. Our activities in this imaginary square box. We drive our car here. We do our computer here. We reach everything in front of us. In front. You go to AJ's and pick up juice from the shelf. It's just we don't reach up. We don't rotate. We don't do any side bends. Just right now, sitting like this, my hips are getting tighter.
Yes.
My hip flexors are short. My glutes are in a soft position. It's not active. And as the more hours we spent like this, my pelvis started to tilt. My head started to go forward because I had to look at the screen more.
You make me want to sit up straight and adjust here.
I mean, it's just gravity, just pulls us down, and if you're not in alignment, like those Jenga, you want to try to stack it on top of each other. So our Jenga is like pushing us different many ways, especially forward. Our head is way out here. Instead of our head should be like 8 pounds. You move a few inches forward, it's becoming double out, 16 pounds, and further out, 32 pounds.
And that puts a lot of pressure on the spine.
Puts a lot of pressure on the spine, and your pelvis is not aligned, because one thing I learned is your diaphragm and your pelvic floor has to be in alignment, so to be like a cylinder. But if your pelvis is tilted forward, so your core is not, because the transverse is not going to fire effectively if it's not in alignment. So imagine the pelvis is like a bucket. You're spilling water, in that bucket, and you cannot create that intra-abdominal pressure because as you inhale, the diaphragm will go down, the pelvic floor will go down. As you exhale, will come up. It moves simultaneously. That transverse create that pressure as you exhale. Like put your hand in your belly, like pretend to cough. Yeah, see that transverse firing. So it's activated with breath, and so to synchronize that with movement, and so that's why I look funny the first time I did Pilates, because I cannot synchronize my breathing with the movement. So there's a reason why we're breathing a certain way in a certain movement. You don't breathe, inhale when you compress. You inhale when you do extension. You exhale when you compress your spine. So because it matters what's happening, activating that inner core unit. So, we're still, I would say, 10 years ahead. I think it's a long learning curve, but there's more and more men, I used to have one man out of 10. Now it's getting up there, 3 to 4 men out of 10. More and more men looking for another alternative way of training because we're aging. I'm 55. I don't have to lift 300 pounds every day, and so I want to be more functional and hopefully down the road I could play with my grandkids or so.
Well, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be you, because you've maintained really good strength and mobility into some of your older years, which 55 is not old by any means, especially these days. I noticed that a lot of Pilates is, or at least the way you teach it, is very rehabilitation. I feel like I'm going to like a PT session when I do my one-on-ones with you, which
sorry, Michael,
tomorrow morning, which is good. It's really what I needed, because it's easy to cheat in a class, in a group, where one-on-one you can see exactly what I'm doing, if I'm doing the exercise right, and then help me to reconnect and reverse some bad habits, old habits, and problems that have been created from the spinal fusion in my neck, and how that my other parts of my body compensated for that stiffness. And one of the things that you mentioned to me very early on was about the glutes not firing and how common that is. So why is it not common for people to have their glutes activated in everyday activities?
Yeah, it's like you have 12 cylinders, you're only firing 6. You know how the new engines now, it just shuts off if it doesn't. So, we're not being chased by lions anymore. Maybe unless you're a thief, someone's chasing you, a cop chasing you.
Yes.
So to extend that, we're not sprinting. That's when in sprinting, that's where you extend your hip fully. Your glutes are firing. Have you seen those sprinters?
Yes.
How
They
have huge, powerful glutes and hamstring. It's like gigantic, and that's why, and that's their engine. And a lot of my male clients, their desk job, or even my doctor clients, they're in a bad position, in the operating
performing
room.
Surgery.
Yeah, it's very, very, very small movements, and their neck is straining. They're not running. They're not sprinting. They're stressed mentally, and they're not gonna run in the treadmill. I'm tired. Just gonna go and be with my family, and so it's a lot of social, societal, cultural. You have to really go out there and find time to sprint. If you're still able to sprint, keep sprinting. Do wind sprints, like 50 meter runs, and I'll go to the what do you call this, soccer field, and just run for 50 meters back and forth, 10 times, just to train my brain to still activate those
muscles,
those pistons,
pistons,
those 12 cylinders.
Yeah.
You're using 6, so you gotta use all cylinders to be functional.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. I have an 83-year-old gentleman, he's been with me for 17 years. And he's one of the guy who's still, his glutes is still firing, and most of his, the problem with him right now, he's picking up his friends falling on the golf course. I said, Jerry, stop picking up this old man from the golf course. You're going to hurt your back.
For a woman listening to this interview right now, because I see so many people who are interested in building glutes, right? That's like the trend. We talked about trends earlier. Today's trend is everybody wants to have a nice butt. And if you build good power, right, in your glutes, then you might have that nice butt. And I see everybody in the gym, or especially women in the gym, they're doing certain exercises to try to activate the glutes, which is like when you put the barbell over your belly button or over your hips, and then lift, your pelvis to try to activate those muscles. But based on what you're saying, get out there and do some sprints.
Yes, because that's just isolating the glute muscles. You have to, we're human. We have two legs. Our pelvis, it moves. When we run, we rotate. So you got to work your body as a unit, just not just doing a lot of isolation.
Like a bicep curl.
Yeah. So, and that's still a bodybuilding mentality, Yeah. And 8 out of 10, if someone will come to me and I'll do the test if their glutes is functional. They have great glutes. They have great looking glutes, but the shape, it's perfect, muscular, but I'll test the function. It's not working. It's weird, It's not working. Can you feel your glutes? No, I feel it in my hamstring. Yes. I feel it in my quads.
Yeah, common.
And because there's layers of muscles in our body that's not activated with isolating type of training like bodybuilding. Bodybuilding a lot of the exercise are built by or designed by bodybuilders, and it was not designed by like a sports medicine person or
it's not functional.
Therapist. It's not functional.
Yeah, we used to call it back in the day, beach muscles.
Yeah, beach muscle or
looks good for the beach.
Mirror muscles.
Not for function if you had to compete in a sport or, whether it be basketball, baseball, football, not too functional.
So you can do both, but don't neglect those stabilizer muscles. If it's a foundation, like a triangle, the bottom part should be stabilization, then strength, then power. So before you can sprint, you got to put some stability, then strength. Okay, you do the strength training, then you do the explosive power, and you cannot do power or you cannot just do strength. It will crumble because it will test the foundation, especially when you started loading, and that's what happened. What happened to me, there was no foundation. I was loading, and then one time I played flag football. Then I dislocated my shoulder. I've been lifting heavy weights in the gym, but one guy just ran and my arm is extended. Pop, my shoulder just dropped. Wow. And I learned there's no stability in my shoulder. Those small muscles I haven't trained. So it looks just cosmetic at the top, So now everything's strong. I strain my, I can do the rings and without popping my shoulder. And
now, another thing you mention a lot in our training is the muscle. It's almost like a bodysuit that's underneath our skin. It's the sheath that kind of covers all of the muscle, and it needs to slide and glide is the terminology that you use. And there's a lot of problems with that based on what you've shared with me on different clients that you see, where it's not sliding and gliding. It's a hydration issue. It's a mobility issue. It's a lot of different things. Can you explain to our listeners on what this bodysuit is and what role it plays in our function and pain management and really optimal performance?
Yeah, so I think you're talking about the fascia. So the fascia is recently discovered that it has more. It's almost like they already considered like an organ. It's by itself. So the fascia, it's above our muscles, below our skin. It's within our muscles, and it's underneath our muscles. So then there's layers. So those are the layers of fascia. So if you find a chicken, those chicken breasts that has the white stuff in the chicken.
Yes.
Glides and slide. Those are the fascia. And what they discovered, fascia is like a system. And or if you cut an orange, if you cut an orange in half, the white stuff that's holding the liquid in the orange.
Yes.
Yeah, those are the fascia internally. So that fascia in our body, so that now they have instrument that can that they can put inside the body, and instead of just looking at a cadaver, because if we look at anatomy, we look at bicep, tricep, and they don't really show the fascia. But in real life, if you see a dead body like a cadaver, you'll see that some white stuff, some yellow stuff, and it doesn't look like in the anatomy books. But in our head, that's what we remember, And when we train, we see illustrations. But so what they discovered, the fascia, it has a lot of function, and it's more innervated, 7 times more innervated than a muscle. It has a lot of nerves. So even research, they show how people who have back pain, they'll have this issue, but it's not coming from the disc. The pain is actually coming from their fascia, especially in the back. There's we call it thoracolumbar fascia. It's like a very thick sheet of fascia that connects your lats to your glutes, cross like that. And they discovered so far 13 systems of fascia. There's a fascia that connects from our eyebrows all the way back, all the way down to our foot.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like one sheet. So if you're tight in your hamstring, maybe the thing that's causing your back pain, your neck pain is from the hamstring, or maybe it's under your foot. So we'll do assessments on that, and we have a physical therapist in our studio that we refer to clients who are super in pain, especially acute pain. And she finds those spots, and then we take them once they are done with their acute pain. If they're more chronic pain, we take care of them. But so those fascia, and people don't understand that right now. It's still very new. The medical books are not still updated. You have to pay top money for getting what's out there, and even training. And for example, very popular right now, the those percussion massage, right? People like
the gun?
The gun, yeah. Like the
gun,
yeah. Yeah. And people...
Yeah, it's very common.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand that gun, it only just the surface. It just hits the surface, the superficial. So how about your intramuscular fascia? How about and there's certain exercise movements that needs to remember, like I said, they discovered it's more innervated. Means there's more nerves. So, and people sometimes are in pain and they don't understand. It's not the muscle, it's the fascia. And the fascia, like I said, it should glide and slide. There's a liquid there, like a viscous liquid and sometimes it gets sticky. So when it gets sticky, you can't move, and you have to break that stickiness to be able to glide and slide again.
Which is painful.
Yeah, and lack of movement doesn't help that, and it will remain sticky until you're stuck, until more fibrous, and it's too late, and you need more surgical or whatever, but
more invasive.
Yeah, so now that's why I like Pilates, yoga, a lot of movement, functional training. It's very good because it's more movement based. It's not just thinking of growing the muscle. Every other kid in the gym, they just want to get a big
short movements,
biceps,
hypertrophy.
Yeah, and it will. You look good right now. Once you're having pain, then you can't do anything. Those muscles will disappear in 3 weeks, and now you end up with, debilitating pain for the rest of your life. You can't work. You can't feed your family. What if your job is using your hands, right? And or you need to do more physical labor. So now you're on disability, and once you're in pain, now that's the psychological part. People who are in pain, they'll stop doing stuff, and the more their world gets smaller, right? I'm afraid to do this. I'm afraid to do that. I might get hurt more, and I have to overcome that mindset that, I have to find, who are the experts out there who knows this stuff and learn from them. I mean, I should have been dead. Like like I said, Michael, I feel like a dinosaur because I'm from the 80s, But
well, the 80s are back now, by the way. If you haven't noticed, with the Netflix show Stranger Things, and
correct.
all of the kids
and the music.
are dressing. Yeah, they're all dressing like it's 1986 and Top Gun, and they're wearing the beach bungalow button downs, and now I see them with the mustache.
The mustache.
All of the 80s is back. So
there you go.
So United Dinosaur, you're a celebrity now.
Oh man!
And I walked into an H&M the other day, and which is really interesting because a lot of the clothes are typically for younger people, but I like to find nice bathing suits there for a cheap price. And the clothes were even the jackets that you used to wear, like for the football game. Like, you remember, like the football jackets, for high school, like all that stuff is back. So,
with
the
garter
80s,
and all.
The 80s and 90s are back. I think it's all because of Stranger Things. But I would like to, as we start to wrap up our conversation, there's been so many great things that you've brought to our attention today. But I always like to give people stuff that they can do besides that was a good conversation, and Steve's an interesting guy, and Pilates is interesting, but what can people start doing more of and stop doing, more of to get out of pain, to increase that range and flexibility, but also to improve their quality of life? That's the key. Yeah. What can people start doing at home or even in the gym? What are the top things that can help to improve the quality of life in your range of motion and strength?
Like for me right now, I'm 55. I think hydration is key, and sleep. Those are important for me right now, and movement. And I took up this test before. I was like, both my parasympathetic is that way, my sympathetic is that way, as I was not balanced. Then when I changed my hydration and my sleep, it went to the middle. And, my HRB started going up. I used to be in my just 20s. Now I'm in the 50s, just putting more sleep into it. And, movement is, I would say, just do a variety of stuff, whether it's cycling, whether it's yoga, whether you do different things, don't get stuck with one thing. Cycling, you focus on this, yoga, there's more movement, you combine different things, hiking, just do things that you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy stuff, you're not going to last, whether you want to be in an indoor, for me, I like it more being outdoors, and it's more mentally, it helps me to kind of shut off and relax. And so a lot of mental health, as we know now, mental health is so important, and this kind of governs what's here, because the pain sometimes it starts here in our head, and just kind of, I think all sorts of movement is very, not just Pilates, but there's so much available for us right now. You could just go to YouTube and watch someone doing yoga and follow them, and some basic yoga and some basic Pilates or some. So don't pound your. There's
so many people working from home now.
Yeah.
That's common. I mean, it went from working in big office buildings to now working
Yeah.
at home. So if you're working from home and you're on the computer all day, maybe you logged in at 8 o'clock, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, maybe you're just eating a quick snack at your desk.
Yeah.
What can you do to kind of get up, get out of your seat, maybe go outside into the backyard or go into the living room where you have more space? Do you
Yeah.
have any recommendations of some things that people can do just to make sure that hip issues don't come on so strong and that neck forward challenges that come with being here all day?
Yes. The best is they can go to my YouTube channel, Therapeutic Exercise with Steve, and I have a lot of exercise videos there during the pandemic that I did for people.
Excellent.
To open them up and open up their chest or their back, their hip, and there's very simple stuff that you don't need any equipment. You just have to move your body in a way, and certain cues that you have to understand, how to do it. But
I'll make sure to link that in the notes for everybody to have.
Yes, Therapeutic Exercise with Steve. It's free, and so I give that to my clients when they travel or something to refer to. Just having an alarm in your phone that, okay, I gotta stand up. And just stretch out, reach for the stars or reach for the sky or do some twisting or, or put the ball behind your back, just do some extension, turn your neck, this very simple, just to stand up, you just get up and, grab your ankle, stretch your quads sometimes we just need a prompt, and exercise time or break so you have to put some prompts and so it becomes a habit. Sometimes if you're in the zone working, you're just in the zone, you don't want to stop, and you just have to think, if you continue to work, you have to take care of your body, and because this is not helping you, it's gonna hurt you and it's gonna make you stop working. That means when you stop working, you don't get paid. The lights don't get paid. There's no food on the table. So you're doing this for yourself, and just your priorities. I'm doing this not selfishly but for my family. I'm doing this, So find some motivation, to why you do what you do. So
I like that. Yeah, because it's easy to maybe just focus on ourselves, but you can get some intrinsic motivation from being healthy and staying healthy is not just important for me, it's important for the people around me as well, so that I can engage and, experience life at a more optimal level than just sitting at home and watching the television, I like that. That's good advice. So
even for me, I had COVID last week. For 6 days, I've been just on the chair and sleeping, napping. I gotta, I have to fight in my head. I have to move. Took a walk, get out of the house, took a walk, even half a mile. Then come back. Went to find a place in the floor to kind of roll my back side to side, just to start moving, reminding my body I still want to live. I still want to continue life, because you're telling your body, those cells, you want to live. If you don't move, you're telling your body to die. You're not bringing oxygen, to those those small capillaries in your muscles, in your tissue. So without oxygen, they'll die. So when you move, you're bringing oxygen. When you breathe, you're bringing oxygen. So it's very important. It's that's how you can take care of yourself, and it's free. It's just putting the time and to have some understanding, or even find a buddy, or you don't need a trainer. You just need a buddy to keep each other accountable. To walk with someone, So hopefully that's helpful.
Movement is medicine.
That's correct.
I love that.
Movement is medicine.
Well, thank you so much, Steve, for sitting down and sharing with me today, and anybody who is listening to today's interview about yourself, your life story, Pilates, movement, and really the anatomy around that, and how you transition from bodybuilding into Pilates and into really helping people manage pain in a non-invasive, non-surgical, non-pharmaceutical way. So, you've helped many people out there probably avoid surgery and avoid being stuck on pills forever. So great work that you're doing. How do people follow you? Where can they find you? I know you mentioned the YouTube video, which we will have in the show links, and the rest of your information as well. But where are you most active on? I know you've been posting fairly a lot on Instagram lately.
Yes, Instagram. You could find us Sommeil Fitness on Instagram, and YouTube. That's pretty much those two main ones.
And you're located in North Scottsdale, your facility, and you have obviously instructors as well. So anyone who's interested in reaching out to you to go through an evaluation, how do they go about that?
Yes, so just give us a call, and we'll set up a time to have a complimentary assessment. So basically, it's free, and you don't have to pay, and if it works out for you, it's great. If it not, it's okay. And so we're here to serve the community, how we can give them an idea of what their body needs, and it's always good before you start an activity or Pilates to get an assessment, so you could see how we can program to help your body. Especially coming up from the pandemic, a lot of people become really, they lost touch of their connection with their bodies, and they need to restart. So assessment is always helpful to start with,
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Good advice. Yeah, I didn't realize how many people are stuck in the house, maybe lost connection with their body, not enough movement. That's definitely my focus for this year and years to come, is not focusing so much on, power, strength, is more improving my mobility and getting into those rhythms of stretching and moving and getting out of here. So I really like all the analogies that you gave for that. So I appreciate your time. I will see you personally tomorrow morning. So we have,
thank you, Michael.
We have, our appointment that we meet with on a weekly basis. So I appreciate you. And to everyone else, thanks for listening to our show. Please subscribe. We have more great interviews coming. And look at the show notes to connect with Steve, and also check out his YouTube video. All simple, complimentary things that you have at your fingertips, that you can watch these videos, improve your mobility, improve your core strength, and also just make you feel overall better. So thank you, Steve. Thanks for today.
Thank you.
And
it's my pleasure.
We are out.